Joseph Connors. Joseph, how's it going?
I'm well, thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you very much for agreeing to this interview.
Not a problem.
Want to start off, I'll start most of my interviews. How did you get involved in wrestling? What actually captured your imagination as a child growing up?
Well, I've got a brother who's 8 years older than me. So when I was younger, we didn't have access to Sky or cable or anything like that, just your terrestrial channels. And I remember, he'd borrow the wrestling tapes for his friends and have the figures and stuff. So because my brother was older, I was always sort of intrigued in the things he was interested in. So I got into wrestling, and just obviously when you're a kid, you're attracted by the outfits and the colours, and everyone was larger than life back then. And I was interested. And then, like I say, with no real access to any cable television or anything, it was typically, there's music going on in the background right now. Typically, you fall out of things and stuff like that. And then I picked it back up properly in about the end of 1999 and early 2000, when a lot of people got into it my age, because there's a lot of fads that came around, and wrestling became this. I'm sure you remember being a wrestling fan. That late 90s period, early 2000s period, it was absolutely huge, and I just got hooked and became engrossed in it. And then when people started sort of moving on to the next thing, I stuck with wrestling. I just was always a fan. I was always interested. I wanted to learn more about it than just the entertainment aspect. I wanted to learn about everybody involved in the history of the sport and stuff. So it was one of those things that I just kind of got into because everyone was into it, and then it became something that I absolutely loved.
Who were the characters that drew you in most?
I think in that second period, I remember seeing like I said, I was always intrigued by the outfits and stuff. So people like Kane, people like Mankind, because the masks and all that kind of stuff. As a kid, it's kind of like it lets your imagination kind of run wild a little bit. So they were like the two big ones at the time. And then the more I got into it, I loved like Triple H. I loved X-Pac when I was a kid. I was never, obviously I'm a fan of them now, but I wasn't like, everyone was Rock Austin, so I was more the guys that they opposed, because Kane had always wrestled with Rock and Austin, so I was always on his side kind of thing. I like Y2J. To be honest, back then, everybody, like the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, because the great thing about all those people is they're all totally different characters. Each one of them, none of them are the same brand. They're all completely selling you something different, and that's what hooked me onto wrestling. It's still what I love about it now, that me and you could have a chat about who we like, and the answers could be completely different, but we still
totally subjective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When did you start getting more serious into wrestling? When did you start training? At what age?
I started training basically what happened was I was a typical sort of teenager. I'd done my GCSEs, floating around, no ambition, nothing going on, not sure where I'm going. The highlight of my evening is probably going down to the pub with my mates or whatever. And a friend of mine had mentioned about maybe wanting to train to wrestle. I did the typical thing of, that sounds interesting, but I need to do this first, but I can't do it because of this. And then I just recently passed my driving test, and a friend of mine said, there's a local wrestling show on, do you fancy going to see it? I was like, well, I enjoy it, I want to take the car out and stuff, so I was like, why not? What's the worst that can happen? Went to the show, there was a few people on the show at the time. I was like, you've been putting this wrestling off, and you've been telling yourself there's this reason, there's that reason, whatever reason not to do it. And I'm looking at some of the people, I'm like, if they've done it, let me have a look into it. So we went to another local show the next day, found out about a training school in Nottingham, went the next week, and then I did like what yourself was doing. I went to all the local shows and travelled around, and that became my new thing, learning about British wrestling. And I started helping out, setting up chairs or recording shows and stuff like that as I built my way up to actually performing in the ring.
Where was it in Nottingham that you trained?
It was it was called Norton British Wrestling at the time. Sticks was the trainer. And it was at the Notts County football ground. There was a little dojo, so I'd never had no ring. It was just ring mats and a dilapidated crash mat basically to train on. And it was good though, because it made me sort of earn a respect for. I didn't have everything handed to me in terms of having a ring and stuff like that. It was when we had a ring, it was a real treat and a real chance to get in there. And you know, like I say, being a massive wrestling fan and watching anything wrestling, I used to watch the Tough Enoughs and stuff like that, and had an idea of what I should be looking for from a trainer. If he's going to tell me in the first class, let's jump off the top rope and do moonsaults, I know something's going to be wrong, because a lot of people come into wrestling with the wrong impression of what it really is. You know, like
important to get your footwork.
Oh well,
like
there's so many fundamentals. I'm still continuously looking at now and working on things that as fans you don't notice, but because it's so, you know, the real gifted performers, it's not obvious because they're so good at it. But when you notice it from someone who's perhaps new to the industry, it's the little things that you pick up. You can't necessarily turn your mind onto what you're seeing, but you notice there's some difference there, you know. And effortless is a good way to describe it.
So was Sticks your trainer then?
Sticks was my trainer when I first started, yeah. He was my trainer, and then, you know, luckily we became really good friends throughout. I've had also, as I started getting out and about, I've had, you know, various seminars with people, and then I got, a few years ago, I started training a lot with Rockstar Spud a little bit. He really helped me mould the next part of my career and gave me a different outlook at wrestling. I also had the opportunity to do some seminars with Dave Taylor and a couple with Robbie Brookside, which was another really good experience. Then throughout, you know, like when I first started, for example, in 2006, the first guy to come down was Brian Danielson, of course, Daniel Bryan, you know, and look at what he's achieved. And I was talking to someone the other day and saying that he, doing his seminar, was only probably about a month in at the time. That told me about getting into some kind of shape and getting to the gym and ring, because I remember doing however many squats we did that day and not being able to walk towards my dad's, you know, without, you know, so that was a real you know, eye-opener in terms of what it's not just what you do in the ring. There's so much around this industry that you've got to put the time into.
So when was your actual first match and your big break, so to speak?
My first match was November 2006. Was for Sticks, so I'd worked my way up the training school, and I wrestled my best friend at the time. When you asked me about how I got into wrestling, there was a group of us who loved wrestling and stuck with it, and he was my friend. We were like, you know, like I'm sure you have friends like in this sense that you'd go around, watch wrestling, watch Raw, get up the next morning, watch SmackDown, watch the tapes, play the video games. He was my guy for that. So we had our very first match together, and I mean, first break is almost like, it's hard to categorise that, because, you know, when I first started, the period I got in 2006 and then moving into 2007, there was a few shows in terms of like Frontier Wrestling Alliance and 1PW had the, you know, the AJ Styles and the Chris Daniels and the Johnny Storms and all these guys tearing it up. But they you know, now we look at all, you know, the promotions that are available to us now, and everyone's doing such good business. It's such a different industry in relatively small period of time. We're talking 10 years, so things have changed so much.
I want to talk about the places that you've worked.
Yeah.
Southside springs to mind immediately. You had quite a good title run.
Yeah.
Some would say it's still carrying on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Southside's been good, really good to me. I started there with my tag partner at the time, Paul Mayland, another really good friend of mine, and they were one of the promotions like Preston Championship Wrestling. Yeah. Preston City, might have got that wrong, but similar promotion in the sense that they were the guys that, when I started working for them, started bringing in more guys from around the world as well and integrating it with the British talent. So they gave me more of an opportunity to wrestle some names that I grew up watching, and getting that opportunity. And Southside obviously continue to still put it, you know, fill up their buildings and stuff. And it was good coming in as a tag team, because it gave me a chance throughout the years of able to do that tag team, then move into singles, and it gave me a chance to completely change my act at the time. And a long title run, and now at the moment still with a title, and I'm having a lot of fun there at the moment, and people seem to be enjoying me as well there at the minute. So it's, at the minute I feel like I've breathed a new lease of life into myself in Southside Wrestling, so it's something I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen at the rest of the year.
It's like you say, character development, always like trying to evolve things.
Yes.
I mean, primarily whenever I've seen you wrestle, you've been a heel. Mm-hmm. And obviously this new character, it's difficult to describe.
Yeah.
It's almost a sympathetic babyface. How would you like best describe it yourself?
I think that's the thing, you know, like you've hit the nail on the head. Evolve is the perfect word, because you can't, in my opinion anyway, unless you've got an act that's, you know, let's say someone like The Undertaker or somebody like that. And if you look at The Undertaker, he's obviously evolved over his career.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to compare myself to The Undertaker. But, you have to evolve. You can't just keep doing the same thing, because then fans like yourself will go like, okay, I've seen that. And there's going to be somebody younger and coming through the curtain who people are going to want to see. It's like music. It constantly moves, and wrestling constantly moves as well. And at Southside, I felt like I'd done what I'd done it ran its course. It was time to evolve and do something different, and I'm just being me, but just doing a different side of me. I don't want to completely I like to kind of, if I change my character, I like to still keep elements of what was there before, because I think it's a complete disconnect that one day you see somebody coming through the curtain and they're high-fiving, kissing babies and all that kind of stuff, and then the next week I'm ultra intense heel or whatever. It's trying to find that right balance. I'm not saying I always find that right balance, but wherever I perform and try and especially at the moment, I'm trying to do different things wherever I go, just to see what sticks, really.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the last Southside show at Sheffield, and there was a part, it was like an intermission, and it was just as the second half was about to start, and you just randomly got in the ring, lifted your title with your belt, or with your bags in your hand, and then just left.
Yeah,
it was great.
That was just that no one knew that was going to happen. I just decided to. It's stuff like that, the spontaneity and stuff like that. That if people, you know what I mean, just throw in Rob Maltman a curveball and Southside a curveball, and just. That's the thing. No one knew I was going to do what I was going to do. They've just the promoter on it has always said to me, there is no way that you could be cheered at Southside Wrestling. So I was like, okay, let's have a go, shall we? And then when it took like 2 shows to do it, I was like, because I didn't know how people were going to react to it. I was just intrigued to see how people react to it. I don't like the face heel kind of dichotomy. I don't really categorise myself in either one of those. I'm just me, and I'm just having fun, and that's what you need to have fun in wrestling.
I think that UFC might have had a slight influence on like the fandom of wrestling. I mean, my personal point of view is, I think you've got far more shades of grey these days. I mean, Kevin Owens is a heel, but people still cheer him. Well, until he stabbed his best friend in the back.
I think that's the thing. I think obviously there's so many, like the businesses, with phones, with the internet, with all this stuff, we're so much more plugged into everything. It's not just the wrestling business, it's the movie industry and all the other different entertainment aspects. So the fans are a huge part of any show, whether it's like today, whether it's going to be WWE next week or anybody. Obviously the fans are so important, and I think the thing is, the fans appreciate raw talent, so they appreciate a Kevin Owens because they see how hard he works, but at the same time they still have an emotional attachment to someone like Chris Jericho, and then when they see Kevin Owens, like you say, stab him in the back, the crowd then, that's what I still love about this industry. If it's done well, if we tell a story well, we still have those emotions. I remember being at WrestleMania 25 in the audience and watching Undertaker, Shawn Michaels.
Wow.
And I was there, and I genuinely, the fan, which I am to this day, it took over, and I made a decision. I wanted the Undertaker to continue that streak, and I really connected with that match. I was out of my seat, and that's the great thing about wrestling, that you can have like a building with 70,000-80,000 people and watch 2 men in a wrestling ring, no stunts, no CGI, and people get emotionally connected to it. Look at Undertaker Lesnar, when Undertaker lost the streak, people's faces, the same fans who go, it's not real, it's not real, they are emotionally connected to that streak, and we're still emotionally connected to characters that we enjoy and like,
You touched on WWE.
Yeah.
Obviously, WWE UK Tournament that happened at the beginning of the year. When did you get the phone call? When did you know that was going to be in your future?
I can't remember exactly when I got the phone call. It was a little bit before, and I'd had the opportunity to meet Mr. Regal a few months before. I'd obviously mentioned that I'd did a couple of seminars with Robbie Brookside, and I kept in touch. They both asked me to keep in touch, and I tried to, whenever, obviously both busy men, but I'd send them footage of myself and competing up and down the country, asking for advice, anything that I could do differently, and I'd get feedback or a message back. Obviously, like I say, both very busy, but they managed to stay in contact with me when they could. And then the opportunity I didn't know anything about anything that was coming about, and then they obviously talked about this tournament that was coming around and asked if I'd be interested. Of course, I was very much interested, and it's been pretty much a whirlwind ever since, really. I mean, like since the beginning of this year, doing the Blackpool shows, which was just, absolutely indescribable to be a part of. And the word I've used before, and keep broken record, but it really has been surreal, the whole thing. When you look around the room and you go, this is a British show, but we're a part of the World Wrestling Entertainment package, and like I said before, having that WWE watermark on the show, and the Titantrons and the building, the way it was set out, and the HD and the people who work for the company, you know why WWE is WWE and why they're number one, when you're a part of that organisation. So the whole thing's just been incredible, and I'm enjoying every second of it, and I now want to just work my way up and, keep working my way up and be in Tyler Bates' shoes.
I was there. I'm actually a Blackpool lad. So
that's cool.
For it to be in my hometown was
amazing building as well.
It's fantastic, absolutely. You mentioned the WWE umbrella. There's a lot of rumours circulating. I do stress they're only rumours, nothing's been confirmed.
Wrestling and rumours?
I know,
who would have thought it?
I know, people like me peddling stuff online. There's rumours that a couple of promotions might be joining the WWE on their network. ICW and Progress have been mentioned. What effect do you think that'll have, if any, on the British team?
I think it has to be a positive if that's the case, because all it means is it's more eyes on these promotions. It's like when a band gets signed to a bigger record label, it's more ears, it's more eyes on that band. It's the same thing for all the performers in this country. If WWE are interested and put their handprint on something, in my opinion, it's going to have a positive effect. I've not performed for either Progress or ICW. I'm obviously well aware of both promotions and what a great job they've both done. I mean, look at both of them selling out buildings like that.
Yeah, I think Progress had their biggest show at Brixton Academy last year.
Oh, there you go.
So I think it was 2,500, and I think ICW sold 7,500.
To the Hydro, yeah. So. And I saw a lot of that event, and I saw when you got Kurt Angle and Finn Balor being a part of it, and then the Dudleys, but not just those guys, but also the core roster there. And
with both, it's a core of British guys.
Absolutely,
isn't
it really is. I mean, Progress very rarely, to my knowledge, when I look, keep my eyes on them, they very rarely just use. It's primarily British talent, and when they do bring an international talent in, they integrate them into the roster instead of just it's just random.
One and done.
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason for them to be there, and like I say, if they're a part of the network, that's great for that company, because then people who don't know anything about this promotion yet are gonna, you've got that network. There's so much wrestling on there, and Progress get to be a part of this entire library, or ICW get to be a part of this library. If that's an opportunity for them, I can certainly understand why they'd be excited to do it. And hopefully the fans can see that as well.
Definitely. This time next week, you will be in Orlando for WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, crazy.
How excited are you about that?
I'm very excited. Really am. Like I said to you, I went to WrestleMania 25 as a fan, and I remember walking into the building and all that kind of stuff. And when the moment I got into this industry, you're always dreaming of things that can happen and stuff like that. And I always had a belief in myself that big things could happen, but you're always your own worst critic as well. And I think doing the Blackpool shows was almost like a bit of a validation for myself, because not everyone, the thing, as we said, wrestling's subjective. For everyone who likes me, there's going to be people who don't like me,
and that's fine.
Exactly, of course it is, because that's the thing about this industry. But it was validation being a part of that setup and being honoured to be a part of those 16 men and the whole team in it, and now to be a part of, go to Orlando and be a part of Access with a lot of other talented men and women. It's crazy. Until I'm on that flight, until I land, it's not going to feel real, I don't think, Joe. It's for me, it's each day now is getting a little bit closer, and I just want to show the world. I want to show WWE. I want to show people like Mr. Regal why they've chosen me, and I want to show them why I deserve to be in that ring.
And then later on in the year, obviously, you're going to be on the WWE UK tour as well.
Which is great. I mean, I've you know, I've in the past I used to do like, I mean, it's not a part of this tour, but I used to do security for like Nottingham Motor Point Arena now, and I've always been there and be like, well, one day you're going to perform in buildings like, you know, like this for WWE, and now to be a part of to be a part of the SmackDown roster with the guys they've got on it, you know, so that's a real honour, and it's a privilege to us because we know how like much those guys work, you know, so we've got to show them we deserve to be, you know, we need to, you know, give them the best matches possible, and I know we all
SmackDown's
will.
viewed, I think, by the hardcore fans as the more wrestling orientated of the two shows.
I think at the minute, and I'm not just saying this because people listening to this will go, oh, he's just towing a company line kind of thing. I mean, I am a fan genuinely, and I think at the minute, I look at WrestleMania, I see the big matches and all that kind of stuff, just to be a part of like some of these cards with people like Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt and the guys that are killing it in a minute. It's a big opportunity, and I know I can happily speak for myself and all the other tournament guys. We're going in there to kill it basically and prove our worth.
Right, want to finish things off with a quick fire round.
Okay. I won't look at your pad, so I don't know the answers that are coming.
Just multiple choice. Just pick one or the other.
Okay.
WWF or WCW?
WWF.
Hogan or Flair?
Hogan.
Brett or Shawn?
Brett.
Hardys or Edge and Christian?
Edge and Christian.
Chicken or steak?
Chicken.
Oh, so you're one of these rare wrestlers that isn't a vegan.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
In 5 years' time, hopefully, you know, if we talk again and you see me, hopefully I'll be.
I won't be able to get near you with security.
No, I'm hoping that I'll be up on, you know, climbing my way up on that WWE ladder and being a part of the major events, you know, hopefully being a part of a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam and a Royal Rumble. And that's the thing, I don't want to just come in and just be I did that once. I want to integrate myself onto that roster and work my way up and do it correctly, and that's what I've done my whole life. And now it's the real next part of the hard work's coming, and I'm more than mentally and physically prepared to do that. So hopefully you'll see me as a part of some of these big shows.
Final question, where do you see the British wrestling scene in 5 years' time?
British wrestling scene in 5 years. Well, the way things are moving, I genuinely, who would have thought we'd be where we are in 2017 with British wrestling at the minute? 5 years' time, who knows? Maybe we'll be having another SummerSlam in England or something like that.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, at the minute, man, I think the sky's the limit for it. I think it's one of those things, like they always say, like maybe the bubble can burst, but at the minute I don't see who's going to pop it at the minute. We just need to, everyone, like all of the guys, it's not just the wrestlers, everyone who works for the shows and stuff like that, just need to keep continuously giving out a good product and throughout all the promotions, and giving fans like yourself a reason to want to, you know, spend your hard-earned money and come and sit and see us, you know. So as long as we keep doing that, as long as we keep, you know, moving forward, I think, like, no pun intended, but progression is the key. So as long as we keep progressing forward and don't put a ceiling to what we're doing, then who knows where things could be. I mean, I think it's a really exciting time for this business. So, and with the way everything's going with the network and streaming sites and stuff like that, who knows where that medium's going to be, you know. So truly is, the sky is the limit, I think.
Brilliant. Joseph, thank you very much for your
You're
time.
welcome. Thanks, man.
We are the champions.